Hello. Today I want to talk about what it's like to work away a lot and the toll it takes on not just yourself, the person that's doing it, but the people around you. If you've got a wife or kids, which I do, and what the what what the outcome is of that is. So I just dive straight into it. You're listening to the Late Mike Show with myself, Dan. And the topic tonight is supporting your family means sacrificing your family life sometimes. And not to get deep from the first minute of this podcast, but let's talk about it. So in January, at work, we got a huge project. When I say huge, I mean the quantity of work for the amount of staff we have, which is myself, my brother, and that was it at Christmas. But we got two guys that came on. So we had two teams of two. I was a team leader, and my brother was a team leader. And we had 33, I'm not going to say what they were, but 33 sites, which were high-end buildings, like government buildings, if you know what I'm saying, where nothing can go wrong, otherwise you're in shit street. So my name was to my jobs. I'm site supervisor and all that. I had the stress on my shoulders, and my brother had the other ones. So these started from down in Plymouth was the first one, and that's 2 hours from where I live. And we had to work out of hours, so our working hours were 5 p.m. until 2 a.m. 4 a.m., sorry. And because we were 2 hours away, we said, right, we will work till 2 a.m. instead of 4, and then drive home. So at least we wake up in our own beds with our families, and then we will leave at 2 o'clock in the afternoon to come back down. Bit crazy, really. The amount of hours. So that was Monday to Friday, the whole week, and that was from January 6th for that first week of the year. So although I wasn't technically staying away, my kids were going to nursery in the mornings when I was going to bed at like 4-5 o'clock in the morning. But I started to stay up a bit longer, so I would come back. There was one day we worked on a bit longer, and I got home at 5:30 in the morning. Bear in mind, the day before I'd been up since like 9-10 o'clock in the morning, and then stayed up, travelled down, worked overnight, drove back, got back at like 5:30, and I'm like, the kids are going to be up at 7, 7:15. So I went on FIFA, as anybody else would do. Went on FIFA for a couple of hours, just so I could say hello to my kids in the morning and wave them off. Well, I think I actually took them to nursery, and I looked like hell that day. That was just week one. This went on until the end of March. So Plymouth was the first one. We had Bodmin, Redruth, Penzance. But then we started going over towards Dover and over in Cardigan in Wales, Newtown, up in Scotland by Edinburgh. Where was it? Kendal. All over the UK. I can't think of all of them now, but it was literally scattered all over the UK, and I was staying away pretty much every single week, every day of the week, and I'd just come back for the weekends. And when you're in that, the only way that you can really do it is by just switching off as much as you can to your personal life, your home life, especially when you've got the weight on your shoulders of managing the whole job. You can't let anything go wrong. You've got to be thinking 10 steps ahead all the time. You're starting on a Friday, you're starting on a Monday to do a 2-day job, but then after that job, you're staying over to start on the Wednesday, about an hour away from that one, and finish that on the Thursday or Friday. So we're trying to get 2 jobs, or sometimes 3 jobs done in 1 week and come back on the Friday. So you're starting job 1 of the week, but you're thinking, do I have everything in the van for job 2 and 3? Because I'm not going back to the yard this week. Do I need to go to the builder's merchant today to help me out on that? So much stuff is going through your head that there is no space there for being the family guy. When I finally completed them midway through March, I was able to be home for a bit longer. So all through April, I stayed away once or twice with work. But most of the time I've been local, and now I'm at the beginning of May. So I've had time with my kids, and it's been so nice. Honestly, so nice. But the result of all of this is my son, who's been doing amazing at nursery. This is his first nursery year, so he's coming to the end of this school year, like the nursery year, whatever. But at day 1, he was so shy. But at the beginning of the year, he'd got his confidence, and he was enjoying it, and he loved it, and he was making friends. But now, when I drop him off, we've got tears again now. He's crying when I drop him off. He's missing me. He thinks I'm going to be leaving him and working away. And it's heartbreaking now. It feels like those 3 months of work, those 3 months of sacrifice is taking a toll on my kids. And I don't want that to happen. On the flip side, my daughter, who's 2.5, when I was working away and I'd come home, she would cry and scream and not want to come towards me, would just be really clingy to my wife. But now, since I've been back, it's almost flipped. She's proper daddy's girl now, and it's adorable and it's beautiful and she's amazing. And it's really, really nice. And I don't know if that's like a positive of being away, that now that I'm back, she's got that bond with me. And it took staying away for that to happen. I don't know. I'm just rambling, obviously. But I can see where it's affected my kids in different ways. I want to talk a bit about my kids because they are my everything, obviously. I never realised how much purpose kids give you. Like, the crazy thing is, before me and Sarah met, both of us were saying, I don't want to get married, I don't want to have kids. Like, that's not me. And then it all changed. And I'm so happy it did, because the person I was saying those things was a very unhappy person. But it's sad that it took it took literally leaping into marriage and parenthood to be able to sit back and go, hang on, yeah, I wasn't happy. Wasn't happy at all. I was telling myself I was, and telling everybody I was really happy. I wasn't. I was searching for something, and I'm glad I found it. So yeah, firstly, I want to talk about Henry, my little boy, my superstar, my most caring, soft, beautiful boy. That I am so lucky to be called Dada by such a perfect little thing. He's just wonderful, and I never use that word. It's not a word I use, wonderful, but that's how we can describe him. And I know that everyone says this about their kids, and it's the most boring thing to listen to. I get that, but I'm not doing this podcast to please everyone. I'm doing this because I want to get whatever's in my head out. And my kids are in my head. I'm so proud of them. Henry is the most amazing big brother to his sister, but also with me working away so much, he's only just turned 4, so he was 3 when I was working away so much, and my wife obviously stay-at-home full-time mum, and as hard as it was for her, it could have been 10 times harder if Henry decided to be an asshole. But it's almost like he knew not to be naughty and horrible and all that stuff. Yes, he had his days like every kid, but he helps. Like, he takes his dishes out, like he finishes his dinner and he takes his plate out to the sink. What? Yeah, he's amazing. But I guess I have to talk about my daughter to be able to continue talking about Henry. So my daughter is a warrior. Emmy, she was born at 26 weeks. She was 1 pound 8 ounces, and she fit in the palm of my hand when she was born. I've actually got a photo of my wedding ring. Her fist goes straight through it, and it goes all the way up to the top of her shoulder. Like, try and picture that in your head right now. How small that must be. And there's smaller premature babies that we met, that we've seen. Like, that whole world of premature birth, I had no clue about it at all until we are thrown into it. This is a topic, obviously, that I'm going to talk to Sarah about on this podcast, so I'm only going to briefly skim over it now. But yeah, it was the scariest day of my life, the day that Emmy was born. Sarah had to be rushed in for an emergency C-section, and I wasn't allowed to be in the room. I had Henry with me, and he was 16 months old at the time, so he was talking a little bit, and he was walking, but mainly in a pushchair. So we had to have our family come help us, come pick Henry up from the hospital whilst I was waiting. And yeah, I met Emmy on a trolley on the way out of the theatre, on the way up to the NICU. And then I saw Sarah about 3 hours later when she finally came out and woke up. Yeah, in those 3 hours, I went up to the NICU and properly met Emmy, who didn't have a name at this point, obviously. And the thoughts in my head was just, what am I going to do? I need Sarah. I need her to come out of surgery. I need her to come out of theatre right now. Because we have a little daughter here that I didn't see being born. I've been told it's mine, and I've just got to take their word for it. Sarah hasn't told me this is the right baby. I'm just accepting responsibility now for this little baby that's the size of my hand. But I knew she was mine. She's got my nose. She's got my nose, and I knew she was mine. She looks just like me. And I felt so deeply in love with a tiny little person. And it was such a different feeling. It's a different feeling with Henry. When Henry was born, obviously he's my first, and every single person that you tell, oh, we're pregnant, we're having a baby, they'll say, oh, it's the most amazing thing. The moment they're born, you'll realise you'd never loved before until now. It's the most amazing thing, and it is now. Now that I've created the bond with him, I wasn't the pregnant one. Like dad's really, like, I don't know. It's different for everyone. Of course it is. I've spoken to some friends about this, but for me, I didn't know I didn't know what on earth was going to happen in my head. I thought it was going to be this overwhelming, like, love that, it. I don't know what it was, but I didn't realize, I think, that I had to create the bond with him. I thought it would just be automatic, but this was 2021, so it was still COVID times, April 2021, a year after, like, the main lockdown, the first one, but it was still restrictions in place. And when he was born, he had an infection, so he had to stay in with Sarah for 5 days, and I was allowed to visit for 2 hours a day. And the first day I went in, so he was born at 7:30 at night. I had to go home at 1 a.m. in the morning once they got moved onto a ward. And I remember it was in Bristol, by the way, and I was driving across the Clifton Suspension Bridge. There was nobody around. It's just me driving. I had the windows down. Just crying. Literally just crying while I was out. I didn't want to go home. I was worried about his infection. I was worried about Sarah. Just go home and just tuck up to bed nicely, like nothing's just happened. Not like I've just seen a baby being born. Yeah, madness that was. So I came in the first day, and I was instructed to put on a COVID face mask, latex gloves, and a plastic apron thing. Now I can go and see my newborn son and give him hugs and kisses. Yeah, I didn't realise, because nobody told me, that once I'm with Sarah and Henry at their bedside, I can take all of this stuff off. They told me that on day 3. So the first 2 days of my son's life, I'm there like a surgeon, holding him with latex gloves on and a mask on. I took my mask down, obviously, of course I did. But I, like, just, like, what was that time about? It's crazy. Looking back now at the COVID time, and I know that the restrictions saved a lot of lives, and it's not going to get political at all. But if you actually look back and, like, queuing around Asda in a queue of trolleys all around the car park, one in, one out, one in, one out, like sheep. What a crazy time that really was. And where were all the cars? That's what I don't get. I queued up around my local Asda, and it was like a game of Snake. Do you know what I mean? Like, everyone's like up and back down, all with trolleys. I do not remember where the cars were parked. I think I walked there. Did everyone just walk miles when COVID? I don't know. Yeah, weird. Anyway, just got off of the topic massively. Met Henry with COVID restrictions and all that. So I think that really, really made me struggle to have this amazing bond and stuff, because I've got latex gloves on him, trying to do skin to skin with him, not allowed. So when I think what I was struggling with in my own head was, I want to be with them. I want to be there. I don't want to go home. I want to stay with them. I want to bring them home. So I knew I had that love. I'm not heartless. But I had the love for Sarah, obviously, and Henry. But in my head, I'm like, why am I not feeling this incredible feeling of love and bliss that everyone's explained. Oh, this is my son. And then it's, sorry sir, you're gonna have to leave now. And so I was just battling with a lot of emotions in my head, and I started worrying about myself, thinking, am I heartless? Do I feel different to everybody else because everyone else is saying you feel amazing when they're born? And it's like it's a strange feeling. But when Emmy was born, I think because I recognized how I felt with when Henry was born, I was more prepared. But we weren't prepared for her to be born on that day. Obviously, 26 weeks. So it was a bit of a shock, but the pregnancy was a very difficult pregnancy. That we'll get into that in a future episode. So we did kind of know it was probably going to be premature, but that day we were not ready. But when she was born, and I don't know if it's because of the fact that she was in an incubator. I don't know if it's because she was in hospital, obviously, and she was so helpless and she was so small, and I don't know, or if it's because she's a daughter and not a son to me. But the feeling I had and still have of you're going to get through this. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to help you as much as I can. You're the strongest little girl in the whole world. You're incredible. You're going to smash this. I don't know what it was. Something just took over me that told me that everything's going to be fine. And it's not really the point I was going to say. But that is a feeling I had in the NICU. I had a feeling that just everything was going to be okay. But the love, the feelings towards Emmy when she was born was more immediate, and I think it's because she truly went through hell. Changing a CPAP mask, which is for audio listeners, I don't know, the size of a broad bean. if you know the size of that. Changing a CPAP mask on a premature baby is harrowing, because you take this mask off, which is strapped around the back of their head to keep it on tightly. It has to be tight to keep the pressure. You take it off, and your tiny little baby with the head of a baseball, like the head size of a baseball or cricket ball, has now got a black eye and swollen face from this mask. It's traumatizing. It really is. And it's these things that friends and family didn't see, or they didn't know about. And obviously they're there, they're supporting you, they're asking if everything's all right, and you share what you feel like you can share with them. Like, they'll understand what I mean if I tell them that we're going through this today. So you don't tell them everything, and that's not on purpose, I don't think. It's just how you deal with things. And luckily for us, we stayed in a charity house, funded by the amazing Wallace and Gromit, the Grand Appeal. They got the Cots for Tots house opposite the Bristol St Michael's Hospital, and they gave us free accommodation for the entire 3 months that we were in hospital with Emmy. 89 days it actually was. We were in a house of 10 bedrooms, I think it was, or 11 bedrooms. But yeah, so there's 10 pairs of parents in that house, and you all have an ensuite. It's like a hotel, but you share the living room and the kitchen, diner, area. And the first couple of days in there, everyone's a bit quiet and reserved. And weirdly, I kind of treated it like the Big Brother house. I don't know if we were just like super lucky, or everyone's just way nicer than I thought. But the group of parents that we had when we were there were just amazing. You could talk to every single one of them. It wasn't awkward. You could have a laugh. You're talking about random stuff which has nothing to do with in the hospital. There's a couple. I'm not going to name anyone. I'm not going to name names, but there's a couple that we were like best friends with them in the house because we moved in the same sort of time, and we stayed there. Well, they stayed a hell of a lot longer than we did. So all the way up until our final day, we'd go for pizza nights with them. We'd go for some drinks with them. Stuff like that, just to. You don't have to talk about what you're going through in the day. You can, and it's easy to with somebody, because even though they're a stranger, they understand more than anybody else that you know what you're going through that day, because they're also going through it. But you don't have to talk about that. You can talk about growing up. You can talk about your actual real mates back home or your family, and it's just incredible. We were offered a therapy session going through this with Emmy with a professional. So we said, okay, we'll try it. And I'll never knock it because it helps a lot of people. But that hour that I wasted did nothing. It's an hour that I gave up with Emmy on like it being by her bedside in the NICU. We got my mum or somebody to watch Henry for us for an hour because he was living with us in the charity house. They watched him. So we're like, okay, we're going to go. We could have had someone watch Henry and spent time with Emmy, but we went for this therapy session. And it was, how are you coping with what you're going through? And I said, honestly, not very well. I'm not coping with it very well at all. And she was like, okay, could you want to, talk more about this? I was like, well, I'm just I wake up, I'm with Henry in the morning while Sarah's with Emmy. And then it comes to lunchtime, we swap, or we'll have lunch together, we swap. And then we swap again. And then I go there at like 10 o'clock at night after Henry's in bed, or I go there at like 8, 9 o'clock at night when Henry's asleep. Sarah will come over to the house and I'll go and see Emmy. And some nights I don't want to leave her bedside until 4 a.m. And then I'm getting up to do breakfast again with Henry. So then Sarah can go see her. But I find myself just scrolling on my phone, trying to find something I can do to clear my head or whatever. And her response was, well, I think you should put that phone down for a start. I think you're on your phone a bit too much. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, well, like, how do you think you should approach how you're feeling? And all these questions like this, which did nothing. Then I went to the charity house. I went into the kitchen, got myself a coffee, and my friend, I'm going to say Jay, I'm not going to say his name, came in, asked me how it went, and I went, I'll be honest, like, didn't really like it. I said, I'm seriously not, coping very well, struggling a lot mentally. And he gave me a hug. The stranger, who's now a friend, gave me a massive hug, and he went, yeah, me too. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. And without ever planning it, I would come over the road from seeing Emmy. I'd go into the kitchen to get a drink before going to bed, and we'd cross paths it so many times. He'd be doing the same thing. And it turned, so one night we met in the kitchen purely by chance. Both had a cup of tea together, and we were talking for about 45 minutes or over an hour about what he had gone through that day and what Emmy was going through that day, like what his child was going through that day. And that helped me so much more than like the professional therapist. I had some, this is what's absolutely wild. I'm about to say the sentence. In this charity house that we were put in for free whilst our daughter was fighting to stay alive in NICU, I had some of the most special memories that I will hopefully never forget in that house with the other parents. I had some amazing times, and I don't feel guilty for that because I didn't treat it like a holiday. I would be absolutely disgraceful if I did. But when you're in that situation and you got other people in that situation, you've got to be there for each other. The Queen died when we were there, and we sat we sat around and watched it on the TV. That was like a wild thing, seeing that happen, because you've got all these millions of people out on the streets watching this hearse drive through London. I'm not saying anything bad about it, but where you are watching that matters. And where I was in a charity house with some parents in there with extremely, extremely sick children, babies. Not all premature, it could be other things, so I'm not going to get into, obviously. And to see the lack of care on their faces because of the hell that they're going through with their kid was actually quite funny. And I sat there in the living room with a coffee in my hand, watching millions of people crying on the TV. And I looked around the living room and I just started laughing. And they're like, "What are you laughing at?" I was like, "It's just, what are we doing? What are we watching this for? Like, what we're going through, and we're watching this." And one of the other dads started laughing. Just a few people just started laughing at the fact, in a minute, we're going to go turn the TV off, walk across the road, and hopefully our kid's doing all right in an incubator. You know? Like, couldn't care less about what's going on in London right now. It's not being disrespectful, but do you know what I'm trying to say? How, where you are when certain things happen makes such an impact. I've really enjoyed this. It's been 35 minutes now, something like that. If you're still listening to this and you haven't hit the follow button or subscribe button or something, now's the time to do it. And that's not me being a beggy YouTuber sort of person. I'm trying to organically build a little bit of a audience, because I'm not sharing this to a single person. I've tried in the past making YouTube videos or whatever, and I've just sent it around to all my friends and family. I'm not doing it this time, because if you follow this podcast, it's because you like what it's about. It's not just because you know me in real life. It's because it could potentially be helping you. It could be helping you nod off to sleep. You might struggle to sleep like I do. It's midnight currently and I'm recording this. You might struggle laying there in bed thinking, what can I do to fall asleep? And you stick this podcast on, and it helps you fall asleep in 5 minutes. And you've actually missed everything I've said, because you've been asleep. But if it works for you, it works for me. I think as it's midnight on the dot, and I've been happy with this so far, I'm gonna close it off, I think. But I hope that you have enjoyed this. I've enjoyed it. I feel a little bit lighter in my head. I'm gonna listen back to this before I upload it and go, what on earth are you on about, Dan? You just spoke in circles about 9 times about the same thing, and you didn't actually get to the finish line of that point that you were making 20 minutes ago. If that's the case, I apologize sincerely, and I will try my best to get better. But recording a solo podcast is well hard, because there's no one here talking back to me. I'm just praying I've done all right. But yeah, new episodes coming very soon. Got some with my wife. Not yet, but I'm going to be reaching out to some of my friends that have interesting jobs. I wanna drop some hints or stuff in, but I haven't got any confirmed yet, so I don't want to say anything and it doesn't come to life. But yeah, the ideas are there. If I pull it off, I'm gonna like it. I'm gonna enjoy it, and I hope that you do too. So yeah, thanks everyone, and I'll see you on the next one. Hang on, I want to try this out. My new catchphrase. See you next time on the Late Mike Show. No, it doesn't work like that. Hang on a second. Catch you next time on the Late Mike Show. I see you after bedtime. Boom. Done it. That's the episode done. Thanks everyone.